Handle Your High with Tadayoshi. All right, welcome back to Handle Your High with me, Tadayoshi, and I got Jay Cutler, former Mr. Olympia, as everybody knows, who knows me in the industry. They know Jay Cutler, of course, four-time Mr. Olympia. These days, it seems like I see more of you now these days than I did when you were Mr. Olympia. It's like you're more visible, you're more accessible and visible. I don't know if it's the nature of being Mr. Olympia or if it's the nature of that you're more active now. I don't.
Maybe, Ted, maybe I'm happier being the retired, and focusing more on enjoying life a little bit. But, you're right. I mean, social media has made it a lot more available for people to see a lot more. But I do think I'm actually busier. There's more trade shows now. Before we were limited on, what appearances show up at supplement stores or guest posings. Right now, there's way more shows. It's international. It's available every minute, every hour, like social media. And now you can showcase much more. And I'm able to travel a lot more because I'm not strict with my lifestyle and staying home and training for shows, which is honestly, it's a blessing. I never imagined at this point.
So you actually travel more now than you did when you were.
Yeah, I travel more. And I'll be honest, Tad, I train more than I did when I was training for Mr. Olympia. Like I'm in the gym twice a day, or I'm exercising twice a day, I should say, because I sometimes do my cardio in the morning, like at home in my gym at home, or I go outside and I walk. But then I do one weight session a day. But it's funny because I used to train like on a 3-on, 1-off schedule. So I'd train like 5 total days out of 7 days. Now I find myself training 7 days in a row. Wait.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's funny how it works that way. I know for myself, after I retired, I don't train quite as much. I train a little bit less, but I do more other stuff. But but I definitely, there's an opportunity to travel more. Well, with all the shows, like you said, with all the shows, the trade shows, and now with the IFBB Pro League expanding out to the far reaches of the globe, it's just there's so many more opportunities to go out there and do your stuff. But it's kind of funny because these days, also, it's kind of funny that when I see you, you've always been a nice guy, always been a wonderful person and a down-to-earth, sort of very humble guy, which is unique in our industry sometimes. But you seem to have a bigger smile on your face these days than you ever did before. Maybe, and like you said, maybe you're more relaxed. I don't know.
Life is good. Life is good after retirement because, man, I'm still what I realize is, like, I was passionate when I was training for Olympias, but I was on such a rigid routine that it kind of made it feel like a little bit of a job. But now my job is exciting because I'm like a little less rigid, and I'm kind of calling my shots. I'm not sponsored really an athlete anymore. I own a piece of everything that I do, and like I wake up every day like, okay, this is how I want my day to be, and that's kind of how I go through it. And obviously we have obstacles with relationships and family issues and delayed flights or canceled flights or events that don't go as they should. But it's all kind of taken in stride at this point because I'm doing what I love to do. And that is, I still work out. I feel great. And I'm really, really being an influence positively for a lot of people's lives. And, I can look back at all the awards I won, and it's great to say Olympias and Arnold's and all that stuff. But like I've always mentioned, the best gift is to be able to be a positive role model for people that want to achieve great success, because now, unfortunately, I'm a legend status or an icon status, which means I'm older, right? So, I'm not the young guy coming in, which I was. And you remember those days when I was like touted as like, okay, this is the new up and coming star.
I remember when you won the teen title, the teen national title.
Yeah, 93. And then I won my pro card in 96. And then I, within my first Olympia 99. And, I was like the young guy. And now all of a sudden it's like, I'm not the young guy anymore. I'm the guy that, I started to look around the Olympia stage and I'm like, okay, once Ronnie was gone, I'm like, okay, who's to my left and who's to my right? And it's like the Kai Greens and all those guys coming up behind me, like Phil Heath, and like, this is the young generation, and me and Dexter were kind of looking around like,
well, he's still up there, shit.
There, man. And I give that guy probably more credit than I give anybody because he has stuck around, man. And for me, I exited when I felt like I couldn't really do as much on the stage, and he's he's been okay with losing the Olympia and now coming and trying to win it back and finishing 5th and 4th. And he was a little deeper last year, but
do you think that's the toughest part? Like when you walked away, was it tough for you to know? Because I mean, you could have still been in the top several spots and pretty easily, and still be a very, very, very well loved and competitive athlete for several more years. But was it harder just knowing, like, hey man, I don't know if I can continue to take the title off of these bigger, younger guys?
You know what I looked at, Tad, is I looked at Phil Heath and I'm like, damn, this guy's like, when he beat me in 11, like he was legit, right? That was the best Phil Heath we've probably ever seen. You know, people would question, you know, maybe I'm thinking 15 or 16, he was really good too, but he was streamlined and he was round and he was just really had a lot of polish. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do against this guy. And I had just torn the bicep. So like I was at a turning point. And that's the year I went through like a divorce and all this stuff. I never really talk about that much, but like my structure changed and that made a huge difference because like I said, my routine was super rigid. So like I lived in a box, right? So I realized like I started living real life after that injury, started going out and I became single. So for me, it was like a big change for me. And I really couldn't get on track. And I came back in 13 and I was a shadow of what I was. And I actually, this is probably the first time I'll actually say, like, looking back, if you said to me, what do you regret? And I always say I don't regret anything because I had such a showcase career, right? But I regret not waiting to come back in 14, which was the 50th anniversary, because I think I could have been a lot better then. And to be honest, I was a little intimidated by like the rollies and the big Ramis that were coming up when I placed 6th in 2013, the year I came back. Remember, I beat Rami and Rolly, and those guys questionably could have been ahead of me, okay? And I said that from the get-go. But I saw those guys as like, holy, like these guys are coming up. There's a lot of muscle here. Rami hasn't really escalated. He's landed 2nd, but he hasn't been consistent. So I'm thinking now, looking back, and of course, there's no question. Don't think, okay, Jay, you're thinking about coming back. But I'm like, damn, should I have stuck it out and really kind of went back to training and got back to my old ways? These guys haven't really propelled themselves. I mean, Rolly's now coming into his own. You know, he's been pretty consistent lately. I mean, he was great at the Olympia, and, you know, he's going into the Arnold as a favorite, right? But man, could I have held on, because I still had a lot of detail, had a lot of size. It was just about getting right, you know, through the injury and coming back. And Phil Heath I don't think has been as dominant as he was in 11. You know, we just saw him lose, which I still think he can come back and win it, to be honest. You know, I think Absolutely. He can. I think he shouldn't wait. I don't care what, you know, his doctors may be telling him, hey, you need to lay off. But I think Phil Heath can train at 75% and beat all these guys, to be honest. And I hate to say that, but if he controlled his midsection, the show's back in Phil Heath's, you know, it's his court. So, and that's the first time I go on record saying that too, because, you know, I was favored. You know, Sean Roden looked great, but Phil Heath is still a beast, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Phil Heath is still the man. Like, I don't care what anyone says. He just got it. Well, and he's got a lot of intensity, you know, and he's got the mentality. I always said that with Phil Heath. Like, I love Phil Heath's drive. Like, he was just, I know what he was, and that's why I predicted him to be Mr. Olympia. Because he's an animal.
Well, you know? And I've talked a lot about this in other shows and written a little bit about it, that one of the secret ingredients to being a champion in any sport, let alone bodybuilding, is really what goes on up here, up between your ears. You have to really have, and you highlighted it yourself, like when you start to lose a little bit of that edge within yourself, you know instinctively that I stand to lose if I don't have it all going on up here. My body will follow, but if you don't have it up in your head, I think that, to me, when I saw Phil Heath walk out on stage this last year, I sensed that there wasn't something there. Like he wasn't quite, the confidence level wasn't quite where he wanted to be, regardless of the midsection, regardless of everything else. He's been able to, champions have been able to pull through victories in spite of some of these disabilities or some of these sort of, you know, marks against them, because nobody's perfect up there. Sean wasn't perfect. Phil's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but it's how perfect can you be at that moment? Mm-hmm. And
you stand next to, right? As long as you're as perfect as you can be better than, it's about showing your, strong points and hiding your weaknesses. That's what everyone has a weakness, bro. Like,
that's right.
But it has a fucking mentality that no one has. I can promise you that. And I know if I was in Phil Heath's camp, if I was helping him right now, like, I would be like, dude, come back and win this thing.
I would be telling the same thing, that what a great story it would make. I would think of nothing else but coming back and really, really showing my best. Absolutely, and really riding the joy of this, because what a great way to come back. Granted, nobody wants to lose, but if you can't, I think sometimes our losses teach us so much more than our victories do, and that they can oftentimes show us that.
I can attest. I'm the only one that's lost it the year prior to come back and win it.
Right.
Ask me my greatest Mr. Olympia victory. People would say it's the first, beating Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie would tell you his biggest victory was his first, right, 98. My best victory was coming back and defeating Dexter and crew to win 09, right?
What was it that made that so big for you?
Because everyone doubted it. No one's ever done it before, right? No one's ever lost and came back to win it. I rewrote history, and I came back like better than ever. It was the best thing. Better than I ever was. So that's what really made it that much more great for me.
So now, if you could aside from the current guys, like a lot of other bodybuilders who, and maybe some of the pros too, like given the nature, I'm sort of backtracking a little bit, given the nature of the climate today, like what would your bet, like you seem to be in a really good space these days, like happy, you're in control of your destiny, so to speak. What would be your advice to them if you could do it all over again, knowing what you know now about, controlling some of the things that you do in the media and with your own supplement company and the business side of things, but also just as a competitor? Like, what would be some of the things you would guide them on?
What's funny is, like, I took it very serious, and, I think, you're basically saying, Jay, you were a little uptight. You were great, but you're a little uptight, right? Maybe that's just how you have to be when, to put myself back. I mean, would I have achieved the success or had the reputation that I had? Dorian Yates was known as a workhorse, right? He didn't talk much. He's much more open about things now, right? And he's much more friendly. His brands have expanded. He's greater at what he does, but he had to open up. And I think really that's maybe what I would have done. I wouldn't have taken it so serious at certain times, and like doing the interviews, I would have acted like I actually wanted to be there maybe a little bit. Right? Okay, I'm in between meals, or I need to go work out. You know what I'm saying? But on stage, I would still do the same thing, get backstage, just focusing on me. I felt like, I always be better. I never thought I was perfect. You're absolutely correct about that. Even speaking of someone that was the best in the world at one time, we always had improvement. I would leave that show and plan for the next year. I wouldn't change that, because that's what drives a champion. Really, there's no satisfaction in being someone that's overly driven, meaning like I'm never satisfied in life. I'm always looking for what's going to excite me more. And that really doesn't have a financial reward to it. So if you told me, hey, Jay, you're going to win $1 million at the Olympia, that never excited me. The prize money, I never thought about it till after someone said, hey, you're getting a check for $200K. And then I'd be like, oh, that's great. That makes it a little more worth, the struggle I went through to get there. But I love the challenge, man. Like, enjoy the challenge, because if you ask me, do you miss the stage? No. I miss the people cheering when I came out, but I miss the process. I miss the camaraderie in the gym with my team. And I miss the change in my physique, watching things change around. Like, it's amazing what a week difference. And you're a competitor yourself.
I miss the same things.
Do you remember waking up and you'd be like, week at a time, and watching your body transform? And
I used to love getting up and just checking out, like, oh, what new things am I going to see?
Yeah, and I mean, and what about the last few days prior to a show when you watch the skin just like disappear, and you're like, holy shit, can I really look like this? Like, sometimes you don't believe it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I kind of like, thinking back, that's what I miss. And everyone needs to go through that. and reach their all-time peak, but have fun while you're doing it, you know. And now is a different era than what I was doing it. Like this social media thing, now you have to be filming. Like back in the day, I'd be like, oh, don't dare take your phone into the gym and train with me, right? I don't want you on your phone or texting people. But nowadays, like it's just, I'm filming every day in the gym and shooting. Today I shot my whole back workout on there. I think you have to have media now. And I think that affects the guys because, listen, no matter what you think, like when I would go in the gym and I would train, you watched it in my former videos, all my DVD stuff, you know, I'd go in the gym and I would train and I would focus between each set and think, okay, then this next set I'm going to do, add 10 more pounds or add 20 more pounds. And I'm going to get extra reps out of it. And I'm going to squeeze and I'm going to contract this way. And this is the angle I'm going to push at. Now, like you stop in between sets and you're either filming or you're looking at social media or whatever. And you find yourself, I don't know about you, but like I bring my phone and like I'm flipping Instagram between sets now, or I'm focusing on editing the video I just took and posting it. So you don't have that mental, that muscle connection that I talked about my whole career. Like that's the whole thing. So you're better off having someone else do that stuff.
I was just thinking about this exact thing the other day that, man, like today, when I would go in the gym before, it was a much more spiritual kind of a ritual, you know. It was like, I really enjoyed connecting with the weights, connecting with my body. And I felt like the intensity level just raised the bar. But here I look around and don't get me wrong, I don't want to criticize people because it is a different era, but when I look around, it's hard for me to believe that the same level of concentration, the same level of intensity is really there for all the same athletes.
There's no way that it's there. So people have asked me what happened to bodybuilding. Okay. And I said Instagram.
For good, bad, or ugly, right?
Everything's all show, no go, right? I mean, I compare Instagram to the Ronnie Coleman video where he squatted the 800 pounds. Now, people's perception is, okay, Coleman was winning and he was a beast because he squatted 800 every workout. This was a one-time thing. He put on the suit for 10 minutes and he prepped for that thing and filmed it. And then people are like, oh my God, Ronnie Coleman squats 800. That's what he does. And that's how he gets big legs, right? He did it once in his career. And he still says to this day his biggest regret is he didn't get more than two. But that's not what really happened because I trained with Ronnie Coleman in Pittsburgh. I trained with him all over the place. I mean, we did the same weights, right? So I think nowadays, like people do certain stuff for their media and it's not real, right? And it's not consistent. So it's all about the consistency and it's all about like enjoying the training. There's just a lot of things missing, right? I think media has changed their perception of things, right?
Yeah, it sets a sort of almost like a falsetto of with you know the facade of what really is going on. I go in the gym and I see people who I don't know who these people are. They're just normal gym goers, but they're filming their workouts and they're doing Snapchatting this and they're doing, and I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. Everybody wants to be Insta famous and everybody wants to have this glorious fitness career. I'd say the best way to maybe approach that is to actually build a great physique and really put your energy into that. And like you said, maybe have somebody who's a third party filming you when you get to the point where people actually want to see you.
The funny thing is though, Tad, is like I'm in the gym today and I'm like, man, I want to shoot this set of bicep curls because I only shot my back workout, but I did biceps too. And I'm like, shit, who am I going to ask to film this set? Because I need a certain angle. It was hard because I was facing the dumbbell rack and I'm like, okay, where am I going to put my phone? Like without making it like back up and make it look like a spot, right? I need someone to like stand like where the side of the dumbbells and put the phone there. It's not like I can stick it on the mirror and shoot the video, you know? And I just felt bad at bothering anyone. Hey, come shoot me, do my biceps. I don't want to be that guy, even though people would probably be ecstatic. Oh my God, Jay Cutler shot this video. And
I shot that video.
Or yeah, like, oh my God, I'm the one shooting that video. But I don't want to bother people because it's just sometimes it's so annoying to watch people with their cameras in the gym. And like, that's what it is with society. But in Vegas dude, the hardcore gyms are done in Vegas. Like we have that factory, which is like a very small one, but you remember Gold's Gym used to be a big place.
That was a great place to go.
And now it's all changed. You know what I mean?
What about Jay's gym? Jay Jung?
Yeah, like it's like a trainer gym, but that's not it's not like a spit on the floor type gym,
Right,
you know, or I don't know where you train. I'm sure you've trained at the best gyms in the world being a competitor, right? Like the hardcore gyms. You love that atmosphere, right?
I love it, but I love the grungy, hole in the wall places where you can just get nasty. That's what
Where do you train now?
I train at Lifetime Fitness. It's the only place that's nearby.
That's about as ritzy as you
That's
can
about
get.
as, yeah.
A playground there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They got water slides and shit out.
Yeah, exactly. I actually, last night I was working out. I did back as my back, and I'm on the lat pull down machine. It's late, like 9:30, 10 o'clock almost. And all of a sudden, snap, I broke the damn machine. Like literally broke the machine. The cable snapped. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm looking around. I caught one of the trainers. I'm like, dude, I just broke this machine. He's like, oh, you're using too much weight. I'm like, well, shouldn't the cable support the weight? But it was just kind of fun.
I did that in Gold's Gym. I remember I was doing seated cable rows, and I had the whole stack, and I was doing set, and the thing broke, and I literally rolled over backwards, and like I got up, and first reaction is, oh my gosh, did anyone see this? How embarrassing!
Not did I get hurt?
I rolled over, and I'm like, man, like I can't believe this just happened, you know.
Well, you're right. It's a total. It does make it convenient when my daughter comes to stay with me, and I can. There's like a little, daycare kind of a place, and there's play stuff, and there's pools, indoor, outdoor. But it's not. There's even a hair salon, and
that $150 a month pad.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but it's either that or nowhere. Like, it is very close. I do like the gym, but and I'm a little pampered these days. In my old age. Like I'm a little pampered. I kind of find the towel service to be kind of nice. But I did when I first started training. My very first gym I ever trained at was in Corvallis, Oregon. When I was a senior in high school, I'd moved there from Vegas, and there was Pat Downing, who was the district chair for Oregon at the time in NPC. He owned this gym. It was called Downing's Gym. And it was in the basement of an old YMCA building. I walk into this gym the first day. I'm 17 years old. I walk into this gym and I see Pat. He's getting ready for the Mr. Oregon Championships. And he's posing. And he's like, he had tested his body fat 3.5 for 4%. He's really almost ready for the show. And he's and I walk in and I see him posing. And he's about 5'6", and he was 192 pounds. And he was ripped, and I'm like, oh man. I was like, it didn't matter if he asked me for $1,000. I would have fucking given my money, man. I was like, I'm in the right place. I was like, I'd never even been in a gym before. I'd worked out at home for 3 years, because that's all I had. I had weights at home. I had a little squat rack and everything else, and this was my first gym experience. And I've been saving money to buy a car, a little Volkswagen Bug. I figured I'd save $500-600. I almost had it all saved up, and then I roll into this gym. And I was like, no, man, whatever it takes, man. So I gave him half my money, and he became one of my first mentors, and it was a great experience. But it was my first serious gym. It was the place where everybody at Oregon State, the serious lifters, trained. It was chalk. They had chalk bowls, and I mean, like even where I remember somebody telling me that shortly, because this was like the late '80s, like 1987. And there was, you needed your gear. Guy in the parking lot had out of his trunk, $10 a bottle of this and $10 a bottle of that. I'm like, oh my gosh! But back then I didn't know anything about that stuff, and it was funny. But it was a great experience, a wonderful experience, and I'm still friends with Pat today, although he doesn't own the gym anymore. But it's a great. It was my. In fact, his was the first contest I ever went to, which was the Western Oregon State Championships in Corvallis, Oregon. And I remember I bugged him for 6 to 7 months to get a ticket. I got seat A1, the very first ticket, because he's like, don't worry, Tad, as soon as the tickets go on sale, you're going to get a ticket. And I ended up, his was the first show I entered at 19 in 1989, because I wanted to compete, see what I could do. I didn't know what I was doing. I entered and got like 7th or 8th out of like, 7 or 8 people. I don't know. But it was, but I needed to know if I could get on stage and do this thing, And I found that I could become a different person. I could be not the shy Tad that didn't feel very adequate. I could be Tad the bodybuilder. I could actually, nobody would know the difference. And it was a very transforming thing for me at 17, that was 19. And then after that, I took it real seriously and competed again and then did really well. But it was a great experience. But that was the kind of gym I still gauge everything off of that first gym experience. I don't know about you, but I still gauge. So when I go to the gym here, it's like nothing, like compared. It's bigger, better, nicer, cleaner, but.
Yeah, but to be honest, like now I don't look for hardcore gyms, to be honest. I look for more what you're talking about. I agree with you because, like, you know, the days of getting on a bench and it's sweaty and like someone screaming in the corner and like I'm just not into that stuff anymore.
I know. Well, today they got all this functional stuff that's going on, right? They do all the kettlebell stuff and all the functional training, which is nice. But I sometimes think that some of these girls, some of these guys, man, more power to them. But I don't know how functional it really is. Like it just seems like it's. I don't know. It seems like they're showing off.
Everyone gets bored of just lifting weights, picking up weights, and putting them down.
Hey man, I got bored opening books and closing books when I was in college, and I still did that. But
I got bored with weight training though.
I never did either.
You know, and there's way more variety now. There's a lot of machines, but I'm still a free weight guy. Like I don't have any restrictions, even being my age. Like I have no joint pain or anything like that. So for me, I'm very fortunate with that. I can still train with all the capacity that I ever did. I don't train heavy. I do everything 12 reps, and I need motivation. Like everything is self-motivating, and where I used to watch videos online or be inspired, I really follow it as much as I probably should. I flip through Instagram, and that's how I keep up to date. But I don't know a lot of this new generation coming in, and obviously it's shifted more to men's physique and classic a lot more. And even guys that were in bodybuilding have switched over to that kind of stuff. So I did go to the Olympia. I was able to attend. I did see Sean Roden win his first, which was, you know, it's always cool to see someone, although, you know, it's disappointing because, you know, I wanted to see Phil win 8 too, you know, because I was close to Phil for a long time, you know.
You guys still pretty tight?
No, we don't talk as much now, but, you know, I'm still cheering on the sidelines for him. You know what I mean? Because we did have a solid relationship coming in, and, you know, listen, we all get busy, right? And we become more in demand, and, you know, life shifts towards different directions. But like, I'm a fan of all those guys, but, you know, I always have that extra special towards Phil Heath because of, you know, we kind of came in, and I would kind of mentored him on the.
Yeah, you encouraged him to really sort of.
On the business side more than, you know, Phil Heath found his own direction with his physique, right? I mean, we never trained or ate the same, let's put it that way. But, you know, we were able to communicate, you know, on the business level, which, you know, he's done very well. And, you know, I hate to see him go out with a loss, especially going as many as he did. So I really hope he comes back and he's healthy enough to do that, you know?
You know, the funny thing is, you mentioned before, like, yeah, this is a different age of social media, and the industry is very different just in the last 15 years. But what was the most, what always gets me, and I'm just a couple years older than you are. I was born in 70, so I'm 48. And the first time, it wasn't that long ago, somebody said, oh yeah, they came up to me at a show. Hey, you're Tad. Yeah, I know who you are. I've been following you since I was a kid. And I'm like, what the fuck, a kid? I'm like, how did that always strike? I was like, man, I'm not that old yet, am I?
Yeah, it doesn't seem that way. And now I'm meeting these young kids at 17 saying, oh, my dad showed you in magazine. You know what I mean? And the problem is, Tad, is like, I don't live the life of a 45-year-old guy, I don't think. So, you know, listen, I'm not married, and I don't have a family, right? So for me, I'm still, not that I'm living like a wild man or anything like that, but I'm pretty much, like you mentioned, I'm all over the place. I'm focused very selfishly on my business ventures, and I still get up and train. I still do all the things that I do. So I don't look at myself as like, when I meet these younger kids whose dads did follow me, like, I don't think even these kids view me as like, oh, you're my dad's age. You know what I mean? I'm still kind of like the cool guy in bodybuilding that kind of reached that level. And the dad probably said, oh man, this is like this is the guy, you know. If you're going to follow people, follow this guy. Because listen, I was a good role model for a lot of people because, you know, I lived a pretty clean lifestyle and I had a good structure, I think. So I think a lot of people like were kind of bonded with me with that. And I had the Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler battle, you know, and that was probably the best battle we've ever seen. I mean, let's be real about it. And I'm not talking like, oh, because I'm the other guy. Like, come on. Like, it was like me against the beast, right. You know, that was undefeated. And, you know, we battled back and forth. And there were some calls where my fans thought I should have won. And then, you know, he won and, you know, vice versa. And there were other people coming in and they tried to build a story every year, but it ended up being the top two guys consistently. And, you know, it made good days of bodybuilding. I mean, I'm sure if you sat back and reflected on what you liked the most, I mean, you can look back and you probably liked Dorian and whatever, because you were young and you were influenced. But, you know, look back and you say, okay, what are some of the best Olympia or guest posing shows that you witnessed? You judged a lot, you know?
I would be interested. It's kind of funny you say that because I would really be interested in if we were to transplant some of those guys, like say Dorian, for instance, because I was in Dorian age like you. I really, really, really thought he was pretty awesome. He was very inspirational for me, but he was the guy that, the shadow, right? Like he would train for 9 months, nobody would see him, that you wouldn't really know what was going on. A couple pictures might leak out in the magazines once in a while, but really he kind of would come out and shock people. And everybody has since then tried to duplicate this sort of philosophy, but with social media, you really can't do it, not effectively. And I always advise my athletes and I advise other athletes, hey, look, don't be shy. You need to be out there because judges are watching, people are watching. You need to gain that momentum. Yeah. And so it would be interesting to see how he would do because at that time in his life, he's a very private person. Today, he's a bit different. I'm going to actually have him on the show next week, and he's going to be interesting. But he's so different now than what he was then, just as a personality. But he's grown as a person in different ways. But back then, very private, very to himself. Like it would be interesting to see, like how would he do in the social media world?
Like I'll tell you a story. Like my first guest posing ever, Tad, was '95. I flew out to Hawaii. A guy there was a picture this big in the magazine of me in Muscle Mag, and it had the new up-and-coming guy. I was like 21. And this guy, Dean Tadayoshi, ran a show in Hawaii, and he featured myself, Dorian Yates, and Mike Matarazzo all in the show. And then a couple females that you would probably remember if I told you their names, but I forget which one it was, but he brought out a slew of guest posers, okay? And I was a guy, he paid me $500 to go out and guest pose. And to me, I was like, oh my goodness, just to stand next to Dorian Yates, I was like super excited. And Matarazzo was from Boston, so I was super excited about him too. But I think I got to meet him already at one point, but I hadn't met Dorian Yates, and this is my idol. Just think, you know, he had already won the Olympia 3. He was going into his 3rd, right? He won in 92, 93, 90. So he's going into his 4th. Okay. And I actually got to see him later that year in 95, like compete. And I was totally blown away. That was the first time I saw him compete, but I watched him guest pose at this show in Hawaii and I got to talk to him, but I remember him backstage and I remember seeing him take his clothes off and guest pose. And I was like, holy shit. Like, to this day, I've never seen anyone like that. And I competed with Ronnie Coleman and I've been around that stuff, but Dorian Yates was just next level. And I got to go out to dinner, and it was like I asked him questions, and, you know, his wife would answer for him, you know, at the time. I think it was kind of one of those things like she was just used to deflecting questions because I just don't think he liked to converse with people. So I'd be like, what do you eat? Like, what's your diet like? And she would answer the question, you know what I mean? But he didn't do much. Really? And I remember going in the gym, and he came in the gym and trained, and like watching him train and wondering, okay, is he going to train heavy duty style like that Mike Menser stuff that I saw in the magazines? And like, it was just like you said, man, it was so secretive, like no social media or anything. So like this younger generation today, they don't understand like, wow, like it's huge difference now. Like you can watch like everyone train, but Dorian, you were just wondering, okay, what is he doing secretly to make himself look like that? And I just remember being in awe. And that was the first time I ever, you know, got to be introduced to him. And then I went to the Olympia. It was in Atlanta in 95. And I understood why he was Mr. Olympia. Like, I used to see pictures of Dillette and all these guys and think, man, he has rounder muscles than Dorian Yates, and like he has bigger, like, you know, bigger shoulders or whatever. How's Dorian win sometimes? And then when I saw Dorian compete against, like, okay, now I understand.
Look, Dorian was an interesting cat. Just having the kind of background that he grew up and all that kind of stuff. He's sort of it makes sense to me that he would be very secretive and private. I remember back in the 90s, around that same time, I had connected with some guys in Europe who were like powerlifters, top powerlifters there, and one of the fellows who I knew, who was shipping me gear, by the way, back in those days, he trained with Dorian in his gym, and he would give me all some of his secrets, so to speak. You know, and he seemed to be like this otherworldly kind of guy. Like, he really was a very secretive kind of guy, and it just seemed like a wholly different, almost. He isolated himself, and he created that template that people try to emulate even today. I don't even think they know why who sort of formulated it, which is this template of surprising people at shows. Like, you would come out of nowhere, right? Like, and just blow everybody away. Well, he's the one that really created this template. Like, year after year, he would come back and go, I don't know how this guy's getting better, but fuck, he got better. It's like kind of interesting. But like today, is there anybody, like, what's the most interesting thing, like most exciting thing? Maybe not in the bodybuilding industry, maybe like in other areas of your life. What's the most exciting thing? Because you said earlier, because I resonate with this, that I move exactly the same way you do. I moved towards bodybuilding because it was exciting. It was not the money. It was not this. It was something else. I hoped for that, but it was something else. It was this idea, the pursuit of something really, really wonderful, something really exciting that really makes me want to get up in the morning every day and just go for it, whatever it may be. What is going on outside? I mean, I know you're doing a lot of things with your businesses, with Cutler Athletics and nutrition and stuff like that. But what is on the forefront of your brain that is the most exciting to you?
You know what, Tad? I mean, I could sit here and say, like, you know, I'm successful at this or that, like business ventures. I mean, you know, I say every year I'm going to scale back, and
it just goes up.
Like, you know, I have this vision of, like, you know, most people, like, in their life, you know, say, okay, well, I want to be wealthy, or I want to have a great relationship, or I want to have children, or, you know, whatever it is, right? Or they have, okay, I have a vacation planned, like. But I can honestly tell you, like, waking up every day is exciting for me because, like, I'm living life beyond what I ever expected to do. And I have no schedule that really dictates, like, that I can't enjoy myself. Like, I'm my own boss. I have a lot of great people around me and a lot of successful people that made me realize, like, time is the most important thing in your life, right? And I pushed time away so many years getting ready for bodybuilding shows.
What do you mean what do you mean you pushed it away?
Because I would train, like, let's put it this way, like, every year I trained for at least one show, a lot of times 2 shows, right? So I would push the time, meaning if I dieted for 32 weeks, you know how it is, okay, I just want to get a shape let's pass these 16 weeks as fast as possible. I can actually go back to real living, right? And be able to enjoy myself and eat out, because on a contest diet, I never ate out. I never did activities that would allow me to just be distracted from the training schedule, which a lot of times it was 4 times a day. So nowadays, like, I'm just looking at time as the most sufficient thing in my life, meaning, like, I have financial freedom. I have my health, which is ideal. I have family. I have great success in everything that I do. But more importantly, as I have more time to enjoy the things I truly enjoy doing. Now, listen, I still have a job. I still travel, and I'm still expected to do a lot of things, but I volunteer a lot of time. And I do things that make me feel a lot of self-worth. So I'm very rich in my ventures and my well-being and feeling like I'm giving back, you know, promoting shows.
So
and
is that something that you consciously have put in place in your life? Because it's so easily I see people get involved in their careers, especially in this industry, and they can just roll on them. But is this something you consciously have done?
I just really, like, make myself, like, wake up to reality every day and say, wow, you know, I'm living a dream still, because, you know, I lived in Massachusetts. my dream was to move to California and ride a motorcycle as a cop. You know, I pursued a degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be Chips, you know. I moved there to be a professional bodybuilder, which people don't realize. Joe Weider moved me there like he did Schwarzenegger. He gave me a huge raise and moved me to California to be a poster guy for the magazines. He wanted me to be closer for the photo shoots. Now, I was living the dream, living in Orange County. I happened to come to Vegas on a whim. I've gotten heavy into real estate. That's why I moved to Vegas. People think I went there for the Olympia. It was actually different. I got involved in other business ventures, and it just seemed like the best place for me to stay. And I've been here ever since. And there's a lot of reasons I'm still here. I can live anywhere in the world, and I can wake up in the other side of the world on any day that I really want to. But the truth is I just kind of let things kind of dictate in my life. The importance in that is spending quality time and working on my projects. I love to work. I'll never stop working, no matter how much success I ever have. I'll always continue. I'm not a guy, after 2 days on vacation, Tad, I'm bored out of my mind.
What do?
I have to stay active, and I love being in my element. My element is being at home and just focusing on what I like to do. And honestly, the best part of my day is still going to the gym. Okay? I love to train, and that's passion for what, like if you said to me, what, if you could do anything in your life, okay, if you could stop right now and say, what would you do tomorrow, would still be to go to the gym. I don't want to get on a plane, fly any place. I've flown all over the world. I've been everywhere. What place do I want to visit? I don't want to visit anywhere. I've been to all the best places, you know. If you want to retire somewhere. I don't want to retire because I'd be bored after 10 minutes, you know? So there's nothing I would change, whether, you know, I came into a ton of more money, or like someone said, hey, we want you to come do this or that. I love doing what I do. Is there another
mountain that you're going to, because I find that most people, you know, like we want to climb mountains. We want to, especially guys who reach the top of their fields like you did.
There's so many projects I'm working on that I'm not even going to say, hey, this is what I'm going to achieve, because I'd rather just do it and just let people like see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, people get on media and they say, yeah, wait till you see what's coming. And let's put it this way. Within 2 weeks, I'm launching a brand new supplement brand. Okay, it's called Cutler Nutrition. I was formerly partnered with BPI. I've now bought out my portion of that partnership. I own the brand 100%. I'm launching all new packaging, formulation, marketing strategies, everything else. So if you ask me what's on projection for the next month, that is the next big thing for me. I'm booked up a solid until every week for events, which I did not plan to be. Within the last 2 weeks, I filled up those spaces rather quickly. I said I'm going to stop traveling as much in 19. I want to stay home and focus on filming more content. That's my ideal. So I want to focus more on my YouTube channel and really putting information out there. I'm doing the J Mail, which is like a free newsletter to all my fans. I'm putting out information every week. There's so many things that I'm doing now. I'm doing a Facebook Live on this Saturday. Like, I'm excited about that. Like, every day it's a new thing, right?
That's awesome.
So,
hey, I noticed you wear on your wrist, you have a bracelet. Is that like an energy bracelet?
I don't know no, it's just someone just gave it to me about 15 minutes ago when he was in my office. It's the bracelet he got from America.
I love that kind of stuff. I usually have like this is one of my I made this. It's made from real natural stones, energy stuff. I just really dig this kind of stuff. It's actually if I was to think about what things I'm looking forward to this next year, I want to take a trip to as I was chatting with Dorian a couple of weeks ago, I want to take a trip to do this DMT journey. He's got this ayahuasca journey thing going. Have you heard him talk about this? Yeah, I'm a very spiritual person. I really, really dig connecting with myself. I want to know more and more and more about all this stuff. So to me, I've had many friends that have done these things, and not a single one of them has come back with a negative experience. And it's led by shamans and stuff. It's really cool stuff. And I'm really interested to hear his perspective on it as well, because he actually invited me to he hosts something in the summer, I think, that you get to do with him and several other people. And sounds really like, of course, why wouldn't I want to do it, Dorian? That'd be great.
Yeah, see, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just like even like we have the Golden Knights, the hockey team here. I even if someone offered me free tickets, I wouldn't go. I'm just not into the crowds, man. Like for me, anything that involves getting on a plane, Tad, I don't want anything to do with.
You're like, I've done enough planes.
I'm so tired of flying. I mean, if you said to me, would you change? Eventually in time, Tad, I would not want to travel, if that makes any sense. I would love to stay home, and I mean, I would rather almost ride cross country with my dogs in a motorhome to get to places than fly, you know?
Hey,
probably Arnold Classic. If it wasn't snowing, that might be a good thing to drive to the Arnold, you know?
When I was a kid, there was that show, Shazam. Remember that show, Shazam? And it was like they would get in that RV thing and travel the highways and byways. I fucking love that show. I dreamed about doing that kind of shit. All my stuff in this place, and I could just travel with it.
I always said, like, what my goal was to drive across country with dogs and in a motorhome and tour through the country. I did that on a scale with the supplements. I had like a mobile mansion, so I did this tour through all like GNC and military bases and whatever. And I toured on the bus, but it wasn't fun because I was stopping and doing these appearances. But I'd actually like to do, like, that's a bucket list thing for me. I'd like to travel cross country and stop at all the like good places to stop and spend like a few months doing.
Get a big bus. Get a bus so you can be comfortable. If you decide to do that, man, count me in. I'll be happy to travel with you, man. Sounds like a blast. I totally would be down for that.
I would let you know, and I'd stop at all these gyms and I would train and
there you go.
I see all these sites and just not care.
That would make a great little like, I don't know about reality, but nowadays you can do it all on YouTube. You can do it all. You could make it a nice little adventure. Everyone could share it with you. It'd be so cool. Yeah, I would totally do that in a heartbeat. That would be fun. I think my girlfriend would go nuts. She wouldn't want to do it with me, but I would. What about so when you look at last time when I had my last show and I had you on it, we talked a little bit about it. You said you relaxed in your lifestyle. You were able to like eat what you wanted. Now I think like it looked like you downsized but your sort of your weight's back up. Oh, go ahead. Oh, so are you back? Are you still because I've had a hard time maintaining to trying to get myself to want to eat as much as I used to.
You know what's funny is I don't try to really be big. I'm about 250 now, which I got down to like 235, and
because that's small for you.
If I eat a little bit, like on a meal schedule, and I have this whole thing with the meal company, so I do eat kind of on schedule. I've had 3 meals today. It's 8:45. I'll eat 4. I usually eat 4 a day.
That's about it.
At my peak, I was eating 7, right, when I was 290. But if I eat more consistent, I really can keep a lot of size. And I love to, like I told you, I love to train. So I'm never going to be a guy that just stops training altogether. So I have put on a little more fullness, even though I'm not trying. I'm a guy that with zero effort. Like I'm trying to continually lose weight. But I always said when I retired, I remember telling Hani and all these people, like, I'm never going to train. And now, like I told you, I train more than I ever did. I mean, but it's just amazing that, like, I think I overworked myself when I was competing. I think I trained, like, I went overboard a little bit where I think now, like, I'm looking back and I'm saying, man, I still keep a lot of size doing very little weight and a lot less volume. I can't even imagine if I was eating enough calories, like what I would actually look like, even training as little as I mean, I think I could be 280 very easily again.
Well, do you know your schedule is different too, right? You have a more consistent schedule.
Like where people think the drugs, right? People think the drugs and, I'm on, testosterone therapy, which is under prescription. And it's like, I take very little testosterone. And I mean, it's like, man, like I never needed even what I thought I would.
I think a lot of athletes, that's the case because I'm the same way. I only do a replacement value. And I was surprised because
I don't take anything else. Like people think, oh, you must be taking this and this and that. Like, I mean, I used to always tell people, like, how do you know what's working if you're stacking 12?
Exactly. But also there's something to be said for, we spent years building physiques and our physique. And once you get this kind of moment, it's very, it's harder than people think to lose all this muscle. So when people tell me at shows, oh, I lost all this muscle, I'm like, and you were using all this stuff and you lost muscle, it's hard to believe. Maybe you didn't have it in the first place. Yeah. I was like, but because I know from now, like I'm like you, like I train when I still train very regularly. I don't skip days, but I don't eat nearly. I eat half of what I used to eat, and I can maintain a very lean. I'm always I'm around 6.5% usually all year round. I don't get very fat, and I'm 206 pounds. 200. But most people in the gym think I'm 220, almost 225.
I tell people I'm 250, and they're like, "No way, you're like 270." And I'm like, "No, you saw me at 270. You know what 270."
I remember seeing you in the gym in Vegas at the old Golds, and you were training, and immense, just thick all over. Very, very impressive.
That's my legs and my back size. That's where a lot of the weight. You lose that. My shoulders used to be, they looked like footballs on there, right?
It's a little bit of for me at least, fitting into clothes differently today than I did then. It's a little bit of an ego hit. You take a little bit of adjustment. I never wanted to be that guy that said, well, when I was younger, I used to be able to, like, fuck that. I don't.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. I'm like in between a 2X and an extra large, and that's the worst part. Because I'm like, damn, I can't really fit good into extra large is a little too small, but that 2X is too big. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too wide in the bottom, so I'm like, I just wish I could fit into shirts a little. I see these lean, slender guys, like, even guys that are like a little taller, and like they just fit into clothes a lot better than a guy that's stocky and shorter, right? And I still got the huge arms, but no shoulders, right? That's gone, you know what I mean? So it doesn't fill it out as much, But it's all right.
Now you still live in Vegas, and you plan to live there for a while. It seems like there's some real estate issues. I don't know if there's any more issues going on there. I have friends that are moving out there, and everything seems to be going pretty good, but.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the recession's now going to start hitting, so we're going to see the prices are going to be more realistic.
Because it was going up for a long time.
Still strong. It was strong through the year, but I think we're going to start to see it reside a little bit. But I just love Vegas, man, because number one, it's no state income tax, so it's great to have my business here. But there's just so much accessible if I really want it, even though I don't take advantage of it as much as I should. 24-hour gyms. 24 it's easy access flights. I just got adapted. I'm very well taken in the community here. And I've just, you find your place to live with the best. There's no natural disasters. Okay. There's no hurricanes. There's no tornadoes. There's no earthquakes. I mean, so for me, it's like, I love California too, Tad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I had a place in Marina Del Rey for 7 years, and eventually I will have a secondary home there. But I find myself like so busy still with my scheduling. Like I told you, weekend to weekend, it's like, man, as soon as I like catch my breath being home, I have to get back on a plane and fly back out for events. And like I said, I'm blessed. I don't complain about it. But sometimes by the end of the year, you're like, okay, this year's done. And then I always have this mindset like, oh, I'll take less next year. And then someone calls me and it's like, we really want you to come. And I feel like I'm obligated because of who I am, and I want the opportunities. Like, everything is experience. Remember, I always tell everyone the best thing people watching this, I can tell, is communication is key. And, make yourself available. Listen to what people have to say. Interact with people, because you mentioned early in this interview, I didn't really interact with people like I probably could have, and relationships suffered because of that, even with my family. So now I look back and I say, when I retired at 40, I'm like, man, I want to focus more to rebuild the relationships that I might have ruined, because I ruined a lot being who I was. And I was selfish, and I had to be successful, but maybe not to the extreme that I was. So if you asked me, like, looking back, that's what I would tell these guys, like, now, don't be so damn selfish, because in the end, life is short if you really look at it, and there's so much more to life than being a competitive on a bodybuilding stage. Like, that's only going to take you so far, because your success is going to come from your relationships. And you know this because, you know, we've communicated over the years, and like a lot of people have more positive things to say about me than negative, right? Because I've always treated people right, and I've always taken time with a lot of people. And, you know, there's very few instances where I kind of blew people off or whatever, unless it was just a moment where I really couldn't interact. But my relationships have built the great success that I've had because I've communicated with people with all levels, you know?
Yeah, you're, to me at least, my experience has always been very positive with you. However, I will say this, that it did take several years of interacting with you before I felt like, oh yeah, you know, before I felt like you warmed up to me. but it was during the heat of your heyday, and
I was focused, man.
That's all I chalked it up to. I really, honestly, I can respect that as an athlete and as a person. We all have different, but I'm one of the most forgiving people you'll ever meet. I totally get it. People have their own set of agendas, their own lives. No, people are not sent here to serve me in my life. It's like, it's wonderful when we have friendships and when people are like ourselves, but I get it, man. You know, but you've always been really wonderful. I've never been. I would not have any complaints. I remember I was actually felt. I remember one of the first times that you were at Lonnie's show, and I helped tan you one time, and that was the first time I felt like, oh well, gosh, you know that you spent a little extra time to talk, and we were chit chatting, and that was the first time that. Before that, it was always very much, you know, one sentence and.
How many people were you training at that show that year?
About 20, I think. Yeah. So
a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, I still coach a lot of people. But you know, I'm most excited these days about the stuff that I talk about when I talk about some of I hesitate to call it life coaching, but because I just integrate it into my coaching. It's really mindset. It's about the same kinds of things that you're talking about when you talk about building relationships, and really, it's about a perspective. I firmly believe that we can get whatever we want out of this life if we adjust our perspective, and that the most important thing about each experience that we have is how we feel. That if we can adjust a perspective, formulate a perspective in our life that allows us to always feel better and better and better about every interaction. We don't have to like everything, but we can feel better.
Yeah, you know what's funny is you just made a good comment. I'm going to bring this up. Is the problem with what we see in today's, like, in our fitness arena, okay? Because this is probably, and this can stay true to any arena. We just happen to be deep into fitness, right? People now can see people's lives more, and they try to mimic those lives instead of finding your. I always say this. There's a saying like, "Stay in your own lane," right? Meaning, like, don't try to involve yourself in someone else's business or try to duplicate someone's lifestyle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the whole thing that I've seen, Ted. Like, you started at 17, right? You joined the gym. Dude, you bench pressed, you squatted, you shoulder pressed, okay? Barbells were more apparent then, right?
Absolutely.
Hammer strength didn't exist then. Nope. This stuff you talk about with this plyo work and all this TRX and all this, listen, I'm not cutting it down, but we were very limited on what we knew, right? Nowadays, and even let's talk diets. Like, people ask me about intermittent fasting. They ask me about keto diets. They ask me about vegan, okay? And it's just like, wow. Today's society is hit with so many curveballs and, okay, how do I get the best physique? How do I train the right way when you have so many opinions? Okay, how many reps did you do? I watched Pumping Iron, and I saw Schwarzenegger do volume, and I watched him do reps. Like, what's the right rep count? You and I could sit here and argue about, okay, who knows more about training? You know, we're, like we said, around the same age. I can think, okay, well, I'm Jay Cutler. I'm more experienced than you, bro. Like, you stage, right? But listen, you've trained people, countless bodies. You could probably tell way more chemistry with people's body than I could, because I haven't trained that many people or experienced. Like someone that listen, you may train people to get in shape. You may train them to put on muscle, never to stand on a stage. Like we have all experienced that, right? But like we all have opinions. And I can only tell people, hey, this is the path I took. Take a piece of this or that or whatever. And that's why they gravitate towards the most successful guys, right? Absolutely. And they look, okay, the guy stood on Olympia stage, he won 4 crowns. That makes him more successful than Tad the Diet Coach, right? But do you have a lot of arsenal in what you have too? Okay, so I just think there's just way too much information. You have to find what works best for you. Okay, I love dumbbells. You may tell me you like barbells. Okay, I like 12 reps. You may argue and say, well, I do 8, Jay. Okay. I tell you I train 7 days a week, and you tell me, well, I don't train that much now at my age, right?
Right.
You train at Lifetime, and I train at EOS Fitness. So there's just way too much information out there, but I can tell everyone, stay in your lane. Like, find your path. Don't copy this guy. See, way too much. I watch these crazy things they're doing in the gym now for Instagram for likes. I post a picture. I don't give a shit how many likes it gets. I don't care how many comments it gets because it doesn't change my life, right? I want to put out information that gets people excited and people interact a little bit and say, okay, maybe I can take a piece of this or that, right? That's my goal.
I think that's wise. I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to like a lot of the social media people out there who are trying to do all these, like you said, all these crazy things to get likes and to get some kind of viewers watching them, and they're really trying to earn through that medium what you earned through actually going out there and competing and investing your time into your body and that kind of thing. And one is the other. It doesn't really matter. I think that they both produce something different. But like you said, I think that what bothers me is that it really feels like they're trying to sell me them. That's not authentic. It'd be one thing if it was authentic, but it doesn't feel oftentimes authentic. And which is why I can respect more of what you do from that perspective, that, hey, look, you just put it out there. This is what I do. I write the things I write. I put things I put, not to try to get likes, not to try to impress anybody, but it's because it's who I am. It's exactly who I am. And
there's a guy out there that I just started following, and he's becoming popular. This guy named Larry Wheels. Have you seen this guy's stuff? He's a super strong young guy. He's only like 23, and he squats like 900 pounds, and he looks like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. Like, that's real shit. Like, he knows the kind of people that like coming in. Like, I haven't had anyone impress me in a long time, but this guy's lifts are just out of this world, and it's real stuff. Like,
he's a young guy too, right?
He's only 23.
Yeah.
At the Nationals this year, he didn't fare so well, but he's got a lean physique, and he's squatting that crazy weight. He's training at Bradley Martin's gym Zoo Culture out in California, but he's awesome, man, this guy. Like, I got to meet him, and like, those are the kind of people's, like, I want to know what it takes mentality to stand under 900 pounds at that lean, like, without a squat suit and nothing. It's insane. Like, I think he's trying to go for a world record, with what he does. And like, he's a young guy, so I couldn't imagine, like, man, like, that's when I say, wow, I'm old. You know what I mean? When I see a guy throw those kind of weights, it's just insane,
I to go back to one thing you said earlier, I do also agree that when you talk about staying in your own lane, because a guy like that, he's doing his own thing, and look what it's producing, but it would be ludicrous for somebody else to go and try to emulate that and expect to get the same kinds of results. And that's part of the job of a good coach, part of the job of somebody who's in the industry trying to make their way through it, is to find out, like you said, to try to take from some of the champions, from some of the glean from the, because you're right, there's an awful lot of information. And especially with the technology, when I was starting out, man, there was no internet. I was looking through magazines and reading books and stuff. And I studied the stuff in college. That's what I did. That's how I learned the basis of what I learned today. Go on the internet, you can learn. I was just talking to my neighbor, and there's some lady, she's wonderful, nice lady. She's building furniture and shit. She's learned it all on YouTube. and essentially that's what these people, what most athletes today do. They go do a lot of research, and it works to their advantage and it works to their disadvantage. Because like you said, there's so much, you're inundated with all this, what's right, what's wrong, what should I do, what should I not do. Everyone's trying to sell you something. Some of it is hyped up and some of it's bullshit. And how do you do it? Well, the best way I know is to go out there and just start with the basics.
Listen, it's trial and error. You and I both learned through trial and error, right?
That's right, exactly.
I mean, we didn't know when we started what worked for us. No one can tell you you have to do 8 reps. Come on, when a trainer tells you, come on, train, do 3 more. Like, we don't really know. So we're just trying to give that person that mental edge because, listen, what I did was all mental. I can tell you my mind is stronger than my body.
So that's one of the things I try to press on a lot of people, a lot of athletes I work with is that I said, look, man, win, lose, or draw, what's going to be your key to success is going to be what's going on up here. If you don't have the mental fortitude to be able to make it through workouts, to be able to do what you got to do, to be able to not listen to all the bullshit that you're going to hear, someone telling you can't win, someone telling you you're never going to do good, whatever it is, you have to be able to be strong enough to be able to believe in yourself. And now it sounds so cliche to say you got to believe in yourself. But man, there's 2 questions I ask all my athletes before I start training with them. I say, are you a positive person and do you believe in yourself? Do you have faith in yourself? And the answer they always give me is yes and yes. But the answer almost invariably is also no and no. It's like, well, they only believe in themselves as long as they're validated. As soon as they're not validated, if they don't win, they doubt. And I get it. I totally get it. And when they say they're positive, they're only as positive as the most powerful negative situation around them. As soon as something negatively interacts with them, they just convert over to the dark side of negativity. It's like, man, you got to be stronger than that. That's what separates. And I tell this over and over and over. I sound like a broken record oftentimes every week. That's what makes champions champions. They're willing, and I think part of this is now you can correct me if I'm wrong. Part of what probably made you successful was you did have to be kind of selfish from the standpoint that you had to isolate you do have to isolate to a certain degree all the negativity.
You do. And, you said something important where it's like, do you believe the validation some people get is like, especially the competitors, like if I don't get first, then
right.
I'm not deserving of this journey, right? And they don't look at the transformation like you and I discussed, like watching yourself change in the mirror. Screw the weight loss, right? Or the weight, because that means nothing. I watched my body without any weight change in a 2 or 3 week period and just be blown away by the changes and say, how do I look the same and I weigh the same? You know what I mean? I mean, it looked so different, right? So for me, like validation came through the processes. Like I told you, like I missed the training and the camaraderie and I always didn't necessarily like the hype because I'll be honest, like I didn't really like Ronnie that much when I was, and I think he would tell you the same thing. Like we became better friends when we stopped being competitive, but like I didn't necessarily think he was the greatest guy. I respect him as a bodybuilder, but I thought I was better. And that may be just ego, or that may be just my delusional mind, or it may be validated, right? On certain, like in No. 1, I thought, after looking at the show, I'm like, damn, I should have won this thing. And the judges had me that much ahead, right? So I'm like, okay, how the hell did this happen? So I was like, afterwards, I'm like, damn, I kind of got robbed, but at the same time, I was so happy to be who I was. I was validated because I moved up and I improved, and I got compared to the top guys, which I never got before. So that was validation for me. It never was reluctant on, okay, I'm going to win the Mr. Olympia. If you go back and today, right now, you hang up from this interview and you go watch Jay lose and Jay win, there's no reaction different, Tad. You've been at these Olympias when I've won or I've lost. Like I didn't react any different. I was always happy for my competitors because I was prepared either way, because winning or losing didn't validate who Jay Cutler was. Jay Cutler was validated by, I had a goal, and that was to be the best I could be and be a spokesperson and be a business guy and be an influence and be healthy in competing when everyone told me, you can't be a pro, you can't be a great pro, you can't stay healthy doing what you do. You can't, like, I did everything against what everyone told me. I was around negativity, right?
Right.
I cut those people from my life. If someone called me and said, hey, I got into a fight with my girlfriend. I didn't get much further in the conversation. I hung up on him, right? That's how I was. And I wasn't a good friend, Tad, to be honest. Like, I wasn't a good guy to call and talk about your problems. I didn't want to hear about, because you know what? I worked the worst jobs in the world to support my career. I was not happy doing the things I did, but I made ends meet. Okay, I was working security jobs for $5 an hour. I was, affording my chicken breast. I remember gas was 99 cents a gallon, running out of gas on my way to the gym. But
shit.
I didn't care because I was getting there, and I knew I wasn't going to make it home. But as long as I got my workout, and I'd worried about running out of gas on the way home and running to a payphone because cell phones didn't exist. Like you spoke about, we couldn't watch people on YouTube or training DVDs. I picked up scrap magazines at the gym, and these guys came alive in the magazines watching the Bob Parises, the Lee Labradas, the Sean Rays, all those people's physiques that I'm like, wow, if I could ever look a portion like this. Looking at Dorian Yates thinking, I will never look like this. Fast 10 years later, I was in the position of winning the Mr. Olympia, I
think that's part of I think there's an element of success that breeds part of the success is going to struggle, is going through some of that struggle. It really feeds us.
Struggle. I love the struggle.
I think, I think you're certainly not the only one. I think that there's a lot of people who, I think I heard it said somewhere, I don't know who said it. They said, if you can't embrace the struggle, then you won't ever achieve the success that you really want. It's too difficult. The struggle is what propels us. It's what moves us forward, teaches us everything, and what really inspires us to go way beyond what we ever thought was possible. And I firmly believe that we learn more from our failures. If you call them, I really don't believe in the word failure unless you quit. I believe that, it's just a point of clarification. If you don't win at a show, this just clarifies what you need to do. You just got to be smart enough to look for it, right? And I think you said that, like you said, when I remember your proudest moment was at the coming back to win it again after losing 1 year. Why? Not necessarily because of the loss, but because of probably what that struggle was like, what it produced within you. And it made it sweeter, right? I'm sure it did. It made that victory so much sweeter. And I think that's what I'm hoping for Phil.
Yeah, but you know what? It sucks because Phil Heath isn't in the position I was. Like, I hadn't been consistent. And then I got beat. And then everyone's like, okay, there's new guys coming up. The problem is like, Phil Heath got beat by 43-year-old Sean Roden, who's been around, right? Whereas, Dexter Jackson had come, but he was propelling better. He'd been knocking at the door. And, like, there were a lot of younger guys. Now, I don't see anyone like, okay, well, they're going to slide into Phil's spot. Like, Phil Heath, I mean, anyone can say, okay, fix the stomach, and Phil Heath still has the physique. I think a lot of people counted me out because they saw my physique kind of, like, not getting better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think, it's even if Phil came back and won it, it still wouldn't be as triumphal as when I came back and won it in 2009. That's just how I see it. Because listen, back then it was strictly a bodybuilding show. There wasn't men's physique, and there wasn't eyes on other divisions, right? So it's like that's all you had. And the magazines were building it. The social media really didn't exist, but people had to pay attention to that platform a lot more. There were a lot of eyes, and now like it's a lot of distractions. So people aren't like gearing up like, oh my God, I can't wait for Phil Heath to come back, and now he's already said, hey, I'm probably not going to come back in 19. Oh. Like I was already like, fuck, I'm coming. By this time I was like, I'm coming back. Like, let's go. And I don't see Phil like making that announcement yet. Maybe he'll surprise us in January sometime. Right?
That must be hard. That must be the hardest part. That was hard for me the year that I retired from competing, and I promised myself I wasn't going to compete anymore. I actually talked to Jim about it, and that was hard for me. It was hard. It took me about 6 months. I went through a little bit of a depression, a little bit of a turning that page over, trying to redefine myself. Did you have something similar?
Nope.
You're like, no.
Nope. I just wish that I would have waited another year to that 50th and had a better opportunity to stand amongst the best, because I stepped away not at my best. I stepped away the best for that time. But I felt like I still had more to give, but I had a better opportunity to focus on the business side. And I had already been injured. I recovered. I said, you know what? This is just me stepping away and focusing on what I really want to do, and time, putting time towards life it was that time. I mean, what more? I mean, after I won Olympia too, every day, Tad, people stop me and they say, you got 8, you got 7, you got 6. They never guess 4. Can you imagine? Once you win a couple, like it turns into 10 or it turns into 9, whatever. When you hear 8 out there and 8 constantly, and, Schwarzenegger 7, they just misconstrue everything, and it becomes, okay, well, Jay Cutler, like, people say, oh, he's the greatest ever, right? They hear that conversation, and then people don't even know. They don't even follow it. They just say, oh, yeah, Jay Cutler's the greatest bodybuilder. It starts to, like, people stop and say that's one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. So people take that into perception as like, okay, here's the greatest, right? So, like, it doesn't really matter. People don't count how many times you won, only the people that follow it that close. And I was already satisfied. Like, I achieved way more than I ever expected. And, I had done what I wanted to do, and I was happy for Phil Heath. Like I told you, I didn't think I could beat Phil Heath again. Listen, if I was 10 years younger now, I would come back in a heartbeat right now and go at it again. But unfortunately, I didn't retire like Lee Haney did, and, at a young age, right? I mean, think about how Lee Haney could have dominated. Like, I don't know if he could have.
I think he probably could have, given the same resources that we have today in terms of nutrition and everything else. He was pretty phenomenal.
I mean, he won 8 in a row. If Dorian Yates didn't come to the picture, he might have won, another 5 or 6.
I can remember during the 80s and the early 90s, and I remember watching. Of course, I was waiting for the magazines, and the conversation was always Lee Haney's a couple of years ahead of everybody else. He was always in terms of his physique. And it wasn't until later that we had that in like Ronnie and stuff like that, where he's literally, I mean, Dorian was too, but where Ronnie was just so far ahead in terms of size, and it was just hard to match up to that. Of course, till you came along.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it advances and it devalues down. I think that Ronnie put it to the next level. I don't think anyone since then has competed on the level that he has. Especially the 03, right? I don't think he was better after 03. I think 4 and 5 and 6, obviously he declined from there. But, people always question, you never look the same. As Mr. Olympia, seems like Dorian Yates was never the same, everyone. Phil Heath was never the same, everyone. Shit, Arnold, if I was in that era, probably I'd view that as different, right? Should he have won in 1980? I mean, you hear that controversy, and, Arnold won Olympia standing by himself, from my understanding. There was a show he won Mr. Olympia. He was the only contestant because people were disqualified. That's some research for people to do right there,
What's the now you when you look at, like, you used to have do you still have your show?
I have 5 now.
Oh gosh, you have 5, man. I'm at a date here. Where are they all located? Tell me about them.
1 in Vegas, 2 in Boston, 1 in Virginia, 1 in Wyoming.
Okay, so you're still going to be on a plane.
Plus, I'm at every trade event there is. I'll be in Pittsburgh for Jim, to support Jim in May. I'm doing workshops. I have one coming up in February at Steve's gym. But every week, man, I'm in California next weekend for an event, and then I go to Miami for an event on the 20th, and then I'm at Fit Expo LA the 26th. Then I head to Weinberger's gym on the 2nd. The following weekend, my girlfriend's actually competing in a fitness show here, and then I go to Mark Bell's for Sunday, his event. Mark Bell's doing a big event for his powerlifting stuff. So there's a lot always happening. Arnold Classic the last weekend of February, and it just rolls, man.
Yeah, I know this industry has really gained some momentum. It's really kind of cool to have seen from the 70s or from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to today. I think, especially all the guys coming into it now, the guys and gals, they don't know that it was not the monolithic sort of industry that we have today. There's so much opportunity, so much wonderful stuff going on, and it wasn't always like that. Wasn't always like that at all. It was, matter of fact, it was the antithesis. I remember Pat Downey telling me at his show, I said, man, what does it take? I was 19 at the time. So what does it take to put on a show like this? I said, I'd love to do this. And he says, Tad, never do it. You don't make any money. He said, I'm lucky if I break even. I do this purely because I love it. And at the time, it was just bodybuilding and couples. Men's bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding, and couples. That was it. There was no figure. There was no fitness. There was no nut. That was before all that stuff. So it's kind of funny.
So spoiled, man. When I won nationals, there were 250 total competitors. Now we're reaching 1,000, right?
Oh, wow.
If I do a local show and I get under 200 people, I'm disappointed. Back in your day, we are talking this show in Oregon, it probably had 40 people in it.
Yeah, I think there was like 79. And it was considered like a huge success. Huge success.
Now I understand. But it's just so much more that goes into it. A lot of more moving parts now.
Yeah, and there's more places for promoters to be able to make it profitable. We do expos, promote, and of course social media. It makes it. There's a lot more that can be done with marketing and stuff like that. I saw on your website you've had the clothing for a long time, I think. And
yeah, I do the athletic brand. I'm looking at some other stuff. I do the nutrition brand, like I mentioned. I have a meal service now with MegaFit meals. I'm still doing the Atomics thing and, all the different branding and the show promotions. I'm deep into fitness. I'm expanding on a lot of these different things, which allows me opportunity to be in a lot of these foreign countries. I'm booked up, I think still top guest appearance person in the industry right now.
That speaks very well of what people think of you as a champion, as a person. I think it does. I really do.
I'm so blessed to have the long line still, and I take more time with people now that I've retired because I don't have to go eat every 15 minutes. And I really enjoy it now. Like I can tell you, I don't know if I enjoyed it because I was bigger and it was harder on my legs to stand. And, now I stand there for endless hours. And, and my fans have now shifted where, I get kids and I get bodybuilders and fitness people, but I also get like the females and the parents and the older generation that still respect like kind of what I did. So like I've seen my fan base expand, and you look at who my media people are, the demographics, and you're like, wow, like it's just crazy. Like I go to Australia, Tad, and like the kids are 13. You should see some of these 13-year-olds, man. It's crazy. Like they're built and they're following routines, and I guess that YouTube information's great because that's where all these people are learning stuff. Like you said, like if I want to learn how to do anything, if I want to put a table together, you're right. I go on YouTube. Okay, put the screw in here and whatever, and
measure here. She's out there with the chain, with the saws and shit, and she's just a Asian woman.
I Googled this shit. I'm saying like, okay, how do we do this? Like,
I think it's pretty amazing. I don't think people realize that we literally have a world of information at our fingertips, right on our phones, like right here on my phone. It's like all right here. I can be in bed and I can learn how to like write a novel.
I remember in '98 when like AOL launched and you had that dial up and you sign up, and they started this whole thing with an email where it's like, wow, like we can email people.
Yeah,
now
but when
our age is showing, so that you younger guys following this. Shut off the interview now.
Well, I remember those days, and it was kind of funny. It's kind of nowadays we have so much more, but and it's good, it's cool, it's very good. Well, you're so what is the most for you now today? What are you most thankful for in terms of your career, in terms of where it's going? Like it just feels to me like you have a lot more gratitude and you have a lot more appreciation for what you've been able to produce. But what's the part that you are most appreciative of?
That I was able to compete at the highest level, and I was able to retire with a vision of positivity thing. I won the title. I wasn't the elusive second place finisher that never won. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be the spokesperson of the sport like I have. Like I'm still, like I told you, I'm respected in the sense where people still want to line up and see me. I have a gift of communication and really spreading the influence of positivity. Like that's kind of how I am. But I'm also thankful I got out healthy. Like I had a bicep tear and we all suffered injuries, right? Whether it's car accidents or like in high school, I broke my kneecap, playing football. So I kind of take it as like, hey, you want to play, you got to pay, right? But like I look at Ronnie's situation, I look at like how my body is, and like I looked at his training, I'm like, man, I thought sometimes do I need to train like that in order to beat this guy? And and then I go back to just like, no, you stick to your own stuff, right? Stay in your lane. And I'm healthy, man. Like I told you, there's no restrictions on what I do. I think people are still surprised because they watch so good.
Well, there's a lot of negative attitudes towards the sport when it comes to like all the stuff that we have to do to get on stage and to compete at that level. And they're like, oh yeah, you're going to be unhealthy, you're going to die of a heart attack, and blah 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 blah. And I know that you're one of the healthiest guys out there. I
never had any side effects, man. I never, like, people always said, oh, how was your blood pressure? It's a common question. Never had blood pressure issues, never had cholesterol issues. I stayed on I was one of the hardest dieters, Tad. Like, I dieted, like, all the time, even though sometimes I was a little watery and big. I just ate a lot of carbs. I ate more carbs than I did protein. I think that really helped my body with my kidneys and everything else.
I did too.
I mean, Chris Aceto taught me since I was a kid, and he had me on like a moderate protein, like a more moderate carbohydrate, but I tend to eat more carbs even getting ready for a show than I did protein. And he never had me on fatty proteins, meaning I ate a lot of white fish and a lot of turkey. And, I ate some red meat when I was younger, but I don't eat any red meat now as I get older. I just don't necessarily think it's healthy. And I mean, even though with an O positive blood type, which I do follow somewhat of a blood type, I followed that diet before. Like, I still think it's functional, but I don't really like to really eat a lot of red meat. I don't think it's good. And I don't cheat a lot on foods. I stay away from a lot of sugars, and I'm just careful about what I do at this point,
Sounds very similar. I do something very similar, actually. Kind of funny that you say that because I did the same thing. People always would tell me, well, how many carbs did you diet on? Like, hey, man, it was a lot, more than you're probably going to think. It's like I never went below, I don't think I ever went below 280 grams a day. And I was...
400 was my low.
Yeah. Well, I was, probably 40 pounds lighter on stage than you. But yeah, I mean, like, and even today, my girlfriend thinks that, like, oh, wow, you eat all that. Because she can't tolerate carbs very well. And I can tolerate them very well. And then I've
well.
So again, like you said earlier, you have to learn what works for your body. I didn't come up with that intuitively. It just kind of organically sprung from my training and from my dieting and trial and error, and didn't get lean enough for this one, got leaner this one, all these kinds of things. But I also believe that today, it's kind of funny you say it, because I kind of tend to stray away from the red meat, go more towards the fish sources. I tend to have these longer fasted windows. I only do about 4 meals a day, and I feel healthier. I feel better. I don't like walking around feeling bloated. You remember the days where you're just stuffing food? It gets to be it's a job, and it's painful. And also I have sleep apnea. So like I've always had it since I was a kid almost, and when I got big, it got worse. So I had to use a CPAP machine. I still do it because I had a habit, even though it's not as bad as it was when I was bigger. But man, I will say I miss competing, but what I don't miss is all that stuff that went along with it. But I totally appreciate how I feel every day. Like that's the part I like the best, so, hey man, Jay, you are always so gracious, man. I really, really, truly appreciate you being on the show, man. And really, truly appreciate you sharing again with me and being a part of this. And, so if there's any, tell everybody where they can reach you. I'm sure they already know, but just in case, what's coming up for you and what you want to tell them and where they can reach you.
jcutler.com, at Jay Cutler Instagram, Jay Cutler 4X Facebook. You guys just search Jay Cutler other than the football player, you'll find me.
I was going to ask you about that. Have you ever gotten mistaken before they saw you?
Used to get a lot of hate mail for the
Really?
Jay. Yeah.
Why would they hate on you? You can't help your name.
I know, but I would get the messages after every game, you suck and whatever. They confused us a lot, right? he never had Instagram, so when people search Jay Cutler, or even the Twitter, I know how he did in the game based on how many
How much hate you got?
how many alerts were going off. Twitter was the only thing before Instagram existed, So needless to say, they did a lot of interviews around the two of us, and I think he was an awesome quarterback at Vanderbilt or whatever. Did
you meet him?
Did coincide a lot with the teams that he ended up with, and he was the highest paid. The guy, he's laughed all the way to the bank, but he's on a reality show now, so I think his career's kind of revisited a little bit.
Did you ever get a chance to meet him anytime?
I didn't get a chance to meet him. They interviewed me for Sports Illustrated for one time for him, and a lot of the Chicago newspapers would cover it because they would Google Jay Cutler, and I would come up, and they'd be like, who's this guy? He's pretty successful.
That's amazing. It's kind of funny. That would be kind of a neat thing to do. Like, hey, do a Jay talks to Jay.
People have shown up to events with footballs, though, and I know I watched them walk away because they heard on the radio, Jay Cutler's going to be at whatever nutrition. They get confused. They come in with their Bears jerseys or whatever. And I caught them a couple of times, and they turned around and left when they realized, oh, shoot, this isn't the guy we thought.
This isn't the same Jay Cutler. Well, that's funny as hell. I was always meaning to ask you about that because I didn't even know there was a Jay Cutler in football until you came on. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, I forget how I found out. I'm like, oh man, doesn't even look like you.
Listen, Dexter Jackson he was a football player. There's a Victor Martinez that was a baseball player. I mean, Ronnie Coleman. There were two Ronnie Coleman bodybuilders.
Oh, I did not know that. That is new.
Ronnie Coleman. There was another Ronnie Coleman that was a bodybuilder. He was like a natural guy, and not to say Ronnie was natural when he did his first Olympia, but like there was a natural Ronnie Coleman, and then there was Ronnie Coleman.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look it up, there was another Ronnie Coleman. So it's kind of funny how things.
But after I watched Ronnie Coleman's special on Netflix, the King, I think it's called The King. Wonderful special, wonderful interviews and stuff. And I actually after that came out, people criticized him for being in the gym, still going to the gym and stuff. And I thought, man, why would you do that? Like the dude is still loving to work. He still loves to work out. Like, do you want to take his joy away from him? So I don't know I don't know, but it would be like, I think Sean Ray criticized him about like, why are you in the gym? You should be out there enjoying your family. But this is what the man enjoys to do. This is what he, I feel like that's kind of overlooked.
That would be me, Tad. That would be me if things went disastrous. As long as I can go to the gym and train, like that's all it is. But I saw him in Dubai like 3 weeks ago, and he's like, I can't go to the gym, but I've seen lately on his social, I think he's back actually in the gym doing a bike and stuff like that.
If there's a way for him to work out, he's going to do it.
Which is probably not so good.
Right? Well, again, man, hey, I truly appreciate all the time you give me. I appreciate it very much. And I'll be looking forward to seeing what's going on with your nutrition stuff, as well as everything else. I'll probably, what was that?
We'll cross paths in 19, I'm sure.
And we will absolutely cross paths probably at the Arnold. Arnold will be the next place that I see you at. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jay.
Thank you, man.
Handle your high with Tadayoshi.